Hi everybody, it's Mr. Dowling here, or Sean to some. You may notice that I'm in a bit of a different setting today. I'm actually upstairs rather than downstairs, just because I've been working away in my spare room. This is some of my Lego collection. I know I talk about it quite a lot, but you can see that there. Anyway, moving on with things. Today, I'm not actually bringing you a story as such, but I'm going to read you some funny poems by Roald Dahl from his Revolting Rhymes and Dirty Beasts books. I've got them here in my Roald Dahl treasury, but if you don't have them, I would suggest that you beg and plead with the mums and dads and grannies and granddads to buy you some of the Roald Dahl poem books because they are really funny. And they're all based on stories that you'll know, so you'll actually recognise some of the stories in the poems, but they're just told in a slightly different way, in a slightly funny way, and sometimes a little bit dark in places, but in Roald Dahl tradition, very, very funny. So, let's get started with our first poem today, which is from Revolting Rhymes, and it's Little Red Riding Hood and the Wolf. As soon as Wolf began to feel that he would like a decent meal, he went and knocked on Grandma's door. When Grandma opened it, she saw the sharp white teeth and horrid grin. And Wolfie said, "May I come in?" Poor Grandmama was terrified. "He's going to eat me up," she cried. And she was absolutely right. He ate her up in one big bite. But Grandmama was small and tough, and Wolfie wailed, "That's not enough. I haven't yet begun to feel that I have had a decent meal." He ran around the kitchen yelping, "I've got to have a second helping." Then added, with a frightful leer, "I'm therefore going to wait right here till little Miss Red Riding Hood comes home from walking in the wood." He quickly put on Grandma's clothes. Of course, he hadn't eaten those. He dressed himself in coat and hat. He put on shoes, and after that, he even brushed and curled his hair, then sat himself in Grandma's chair. In came the little girl in red. She stopped, she stared, and then she said, "What great big ears you have, Grandma." "All the better to hear you with," the wolf replied. "What great big eyes you have, Grandma," said Little Red Riding Hood. "All the better to see you with," the wolf replied. He sat there watching her and smiled. He thought, "I'm going to eat this child. Compared with her old grandmama, she's going to taste like caviar." Then Little Red Riding Hood said, "But Grandma, what a lovely great big furry coat you have on." "That's wrong," cried the wolf. "Have you forgot to tell me what big teeth I've got?" "Ah, well, no matter what you say, I'm going to eat you anyway." The small girl smiles. One eyelid flickers. She whips a pistol from her knickers. She aims it at the creature's head, and bang, 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 she shoots him dead. A few weeks later, in the wood, I came across Miss Riding Hood. But what a change! No cloak of red, no silly hood upon her head. She said, "Hello, and do please note my lovely, furry, wolf skin coat." I hope you enjoyed that one. Like I say, it's a little bit different from the normal fairy tale that you hear. Roald Dahl had a habit of making things a little bit darker or a little bit sillier, but it's still very funny. My favourite part was the bit where she pulled a pistol from her knickers. Don't think you'd get away with that nowadays. Anyway, our next poem is the story of the 3 little pigs. And this one is from Revolting Rhymes as well. The animal I really dig, above all others, is the pig. Pigs are noble, pigs are clever. Pigs are courteous, however. Now and then, to break this rule, one meets a pig who is a fool. What, for example, would you say if, strolling through the woods one day, right there in front of you, you saw a pig who built his house of straw? The wolf who saw it licked his lips and said, "That pig has had his chips. Little pig, let me come in. No, 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 by the hairs on my chinny chin chin. Then I'll huff, and I'll puff, and I'll blow your house in." The little pig began to pray, but Wolfie blew his house away. He shouted, "Bacon, pork and ham, oh what a lucky wolf I am." And though he ate the pig quite fast, he carefully kept the tail till last. Wolf wandered on, a trifle bloated. Surprise, surprise, for soon he noted another little house for pigs, and this one had been built of twigs. Little pig, let me come in. No, 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 by the hairs on my chinny chin chin. Then I'll huff, and I'll puff, and I'll blow your house in. The wolf said, "Okay, here we go." Then he began to blow and blow. The little pig began to squeal. He cried, "Oh, wolf, you've had one meal. Why can't we talk and make a deal?" The wolf replied, "Not on your Nelly." And soon the pig was in his belly. "Two juicy little pigs," Wolf cried, "but still I am not satisfied. I know full well my tummy's bulging, but oh, how I do adore indulging." So creeping quietly as a mouse, the wolf approached another house. A house which also had inside a little piggy trying to hide. But this one piggy number 3, was bright and brainy as could be. No straw for him, no twigs or sticks. This pig had built his house of bricks. "You'll not get me," the piggy cried. "I'll blow you down," the wolf replied. "You'll need," pig said, "a lot of puff, and I don't think you've got enough." Wolf huffed and puffed and blew and blew. The house stayed up as good as new. "If I can't blow it down," the wolf said, "I'll have to blow it up instead. I'll come back in the dead of night and blow it up with dynamite." Pig cried, "You brute, I might have known." Then picking up the telephone, he dialed as quickly as could be the number of Red Riding Hood. "Hello," she said. "Who's speaking, who?" "Oh, hello, Piggy. How do you do?" Pig cried, "I need your help, Miss Hood. Oh, please, do you think you could?" "I'll try, of course," Miss Hood replied. "What's on your mind?" "A wolf," Pig cried. "I know you've dealt with wolves before, and now I've got one at my door." "My darling Pig," she said, "my sweet, that's something really up my street. I've just begun to wash my hair, but when it's dry, I'll be right there." A short while later, through the wood, came striding brave Miss Riding Hood. The wolf stood there, his eyes ablaze, a yellowish colour, like mayonnaise. His teeth were sharp, his gums were raw, and spit was dripping from his jaw. Once more the maiden's eyelid flickers, she draws that pistol from her knickers. Once more she hits him in the vital spot and kills him dead with a single shot. Pig peeping through the window stood and yelled, "Well done, Miss Riding Hood. Ah, Piglet, you must never trust young ladies from the upper crust. For now Miss Riding Hood one notes not only has 2 wolfskin coats, but when she goes from place to place, she has a pigskin travelling case. That is one of my favourite ones as well. It's a bit dark at the end there, but she did say, never trust the girl from the upper crust. One more story for you now, boys and girls, from the Roald Dahl poetry collection. And you'll know this one, but again in traditional Roald Dahl style. It's a bit dark, it's a bit different, but I'm sure you'll still enjoy it. So, here we go with the story of Cinderella from Revolting Rhymes. I guess you think you know this story. You don't, the real one's much more gory. The phony one, the one that you know, was cooked up years and years ago and made to sound all soft and sappy, just to keep the children happy. Mind you, they got the first bit right. The bit where, in the dead of night, the ugly sisters, jewels and all, departed for a palace ball. While darling little Cinderella was locked up in the slimy cellar, where rats who wanted things to eat began to nibble at her feet. Ugh. She bellowed, "Help and let me out!" The magic fairy heard her shout. Appearing in a blaze of light, she said, "My dear, are you all right?" "All right," Cindy cried. "Can't you see? I feel as rotten as can be." She beat her fist against the wall and shouted, "Get me to the ball! There is a disco at the palace. The rest have gone and I am jealous. I want a dress, I want a coach, and earrings and a diamond brooch, and silver slippers, 2 of those, and lovely nylon pantyhose. Done up like that, I'll guarantee the handsome prince will fall for me." The fairy said, "Hang on a trick." She gave her wand a mighty flick, and quickly, in no time at all, Cindy was at the palace ball. It made the ugly sisters wince to see her dancing with the prince. She held him very tight and pressed herself against his manly chest. The prince himself was turned to pulp, and he could do with gasp and gulp. Then midnight struck and she shouted, "Heck! I've got to run to save my neck." The prince cried, "No, alas, alack!" He grabbed her dress to hold her back. As Cindy shouted, "Let me go!" the dress was ripped from head to toe. She ran out in her underwear and lost one slipper on the stair. The prince was on it like a dart. He pressed it to his pounding heart. "The girl this slipper fits," he cried, "tomorrow morn shall be my bride. I'll visit every house in town until I've tracked this maiden down." Then, rather carelessly I fear, he placed it on a crate of beer. At once one of the ugly sisters, the one whose face was blotched with blisters, sneaked up and grabbed the dainty shoe and quickly flushed it down the loo. Then in its place she calmly put the slipper from her own left foot. Aha, you see, the plot grows thicker, and Cindy's luck starts looking sicker. Next day the prince went charging down to knock on all the doors in town. In every town and every house the tension grew. Who was the owner of the shoe? The shoe was long and very wide. A normal foot got lost inside. Also it smelled a wee bit icky. The owner's feet were hot and sticky. Thousands of eager people came to try it on, but all in vain. Now came the ugly sisters go. One tried it on, the prince screamed, "No!" But she screamed, "Yes, it fits, whoopee! So now you've got to marry me." The prince went white from ear to ear. He muttered, "Let's get out of here." "Oh no, you don't, you've made a vow. There's no way you can back out now." "Off with her head," the prince roared back, then chopped it off with one big whack. This pleased the prince. He smiled and said, "She's prettier without her head." Then up came sister number 2, who yelled, "Now I will try the shoe." "Try this instead," the prince yelled back. He swung his trusty sword and smack! Her head went crashing to the ground. It bounced a bit, then rolled around. In the kitchen, peeling spuds, Cinderella heard the thuds of bouncing heads upon the floor and poked her head around the door. "What's all this racket?" Cindy cried. "Mind your own biz," the prince replied. Poor Cindy's heart was torn to shreds. "My prince," she thought, "he chops off heads. How could I marry anyone who does this sort of thing for fun?" The prince cried, "Who's this dirty mutt? Off with her nut! Off with her nut!" Just then, all in a blaze of light, the magic fairy hove in sight. Her magic wand went swoosh and swish. Cindy cried, "Come, make a wish. Wish anything and have no doubt that I will make it come about." Cindy answered, "O kind fairy, this time I shall be more wary. No more princes, no more money. I've had my taste of honey. I'm wishing for a decent man. They're hard to find. Do you think you can?" Within a minute, Cinderella, well, she was married to a lovely fella, a simple jam maker by trade, who sold good homemade marmalade. Their house was filled with smiles and laughter, and then they lived happily ever after. Thanks for joining me for today's story time with the Roald Dahl Treasury. I don't actually know what tomorrow's story is going to be just yet. I've not decided, so we'll keep that as a surprise. But I will see you all tomorrow for story time number 7. Bye.